welcome to the unboxing of Umbraco 16, our brand new major release. We've been busy improving and refining the editor and developer experience, and also laying the foundation for future releases. I'm Lottie Pitcher from the developer relations team here at Umbraco HQ, and I've invited three of my wonderful colleagues to help me discuss this release. First, I'd like to welcome Andy Butland, head of CMS. Hello, Andy.
Hi, Lottie.
Congratulations. I believe this is the first major release since you took over captaining the fair ship, Umbraco CMS.
Yes, that's right. Don't put the pressure on too much, but that's true. Yeah.
All smooth sailing, I'm
so
sure,
far,
Andy.
Yeah.
I'm also joined by Lee Kelleher, staff engineer. Hi, Lee.
Hello, Lottie.
And I think this is your first appearance in an unboxing video.
It is. I'm very excited.
Thank you for being here. And finally, Mas, can you say your name? I'm so sorry.
Rasmussen.
Thank you. Hello and welcome. Welcome back.
And hello. Thank you.
I think you were last in an unboxing video on version 12. So yes, good to have you back. So let's talk about Umbraco 16 and let's see where we are in the release schedule. The current long-term support is still Umbraco 13. Here is Umbraco 16, still on .NET 9, it's not called short term, it's a standard term support release. I always get those confused. An STS, and the next release, which is happening in November, is Umbraco 17, which will be on .NET 10. So the final STS before the next LTS. That's where we are. And I think we should have an overview of what's coming in Umbraco 16. Andy, if you'd like to help talk me through, what are we getting in Umbraco 16?
Yeah, sure. I think the first thing to say is we've had a few major releases over the years, and this isn't one of those. We expect that for most people, the upgrade from 15 to 16 should be a fairly straightforward one. There's no new .NET version to be concerned about this time, so wherever your site is hosted on 15, 16 will run just exactly the same. And there are some breaking changes, but we don't think they're too significant this time around. There is one around TinyMCE, which Lee's going to talk about a bit later. But otherwise, on the client, there are a few things that package developers, if you've made back office extensions, you'll need to be aware of. But the server side, really not too much at all. The usual obsoletions and removal of obsoleted code, updated dependencies, that type of thing. So from that side of things, we're expecting it should be a fairly straightforward upgrade. In terms of what's in it, a lot of it really is kind of incremental improvements, things you will have seen if you've been following along the minors of 15. And they're all really being wrapped up in 16. So we've got things, we've resolved lots of issues, we've been addressing some performance issues, there's lots of things around polish, and particularly around feature parity with Umbraco 13. We recognise that with 14, obviously we had to make a big change, big structural change, big technological change, and to some extent have to go back a few steps in order to go forward. So we've been listening to the things that people are missing in 13, and we've been making sure that we kind of add those or equivalents of those in 16. So, for example, within the document type editor, you can now drag drop across tabs, which I know a lot of people have been missing. And we've also got replacements now for things like the sending notifications. So these are things that we deliberately removed in 14 to try and make it a bit more controlled about how you extend the back office and allow us to avoid inadvertently breaking things when people have made updates that we hadn't really anticipated. But there are a few things people could use those for in 13 that they couldn't immediately do in 14. But we've now introduced filters for the allowed children on documents rather. So when you're adding content under the root or under a particular parent. We have client-side extensions now for what we call preset values, which are basically default values. When you scaffold a new piece of content, we can give editors preset values that they can either accept or move on with. And then we've also added the options now for the client-side extension of read-only and hidden properties too. And this is something Mats is going to talk about a bit later, because this is not only just a client-side extension, it's actually evolved into its whole feature itself. I think the other things to note are really, as we say on the slide here, laying foundations for the future around search and segments. So just to talk about search for a minute, some of you may remember we released an RFC at the start of the year, And actually, a lot of the work that's been gone on over the past few months has been moving forward with that. But what we're looking to do there is to introduce a new search abstraction, which we will then create an implementation for Examine to allow you to do what you do today. But also, if you want to swap out and use something like Elasticsearch or Algolia, it'll be much easier for you to do so. But we've decided to release that, not only the Examine implementation, but also the abstraction as a package initially. What that allows us to do was two things. One is around upgrades to 17. We know going from 13 to 17 is going to be a fair bit of work for a lot of people, but we don't want to make it more complicated than it needs to be. So we won't introduce this before 17, which would require you to then recreate all your Examine indexes and things like that. So that's one reason. The other reason is that because we're going to release it as a package, we're able to then make that available sooner. We can get early adopters to look at it. We can start looking at building, with the help of the community, additional implementations for other providers. And it allows those people that want to use the new features to do them sooner. But for those that are just happy and don't, want an easier update to 17, they don't have to do that. So long term, the plan is to bring this into Umbraco. It'll be part of likely Umbraco 18. But in terms of the moment, what we have in 16 is really just the precursors for this. So allowing us to be able to switch off Examine, switch in something else, and then use this package when we make it available a bit later in the year. And it's a similar story for segments. So this is something that's it's been in Umbraco for a while, but a lot of people don't really see it because it's not surfaced unless you're using a package that makes use of it. But in the same way as you can have variations for language content, you can also have variation across other things like segments. And this is the basis for personalization, A/B testing, most obviously in Umbraco Engage. But it's also a CMS feature too. We need to be able to edit those segments within the CMS. So that's what we provided. And when you switch on segments, which you can either do in code or you can use Umbraco Engage when it's ready for Umbraco 16, you'll be able to use the segments, edit and create the content, and we can support that package. So I think that's broadly it, unless anyone, Lee or Mads, think of anything else they should be bringing in they're not going to talk about anyway.
No. I'll cover some more of the tiny MCE parts.
I enjoy hearing that we're releasing things as a package. So especially being able to then have its own release cadence rather than the prescribed one for Umbraco. That makes so much sense and enables us to just react so much quicker and take on feedback from everyone in the community. So that's an excellent decision. Thank you very much, Andy. Excellent first appearance in an unboxing video. Might have you back in the future. No pressure for you, Lee, but over to you now to talk us through the new Rich Text Editor.
Sure thing. Okay. So, yeah, as Andy was saying, that in Umbraco 16 we've removed the tiny MCE Rich Text Editor, and now our default editor is Tiptap, which was introduced in Umbraco 15, but we had them side by side with Tiny. But now Tiptap is our main editor. So this is the Tiptap Rich Text Editor, the default one inside Umbraco. We've got toolbar at the top and the status bar at the bottom, and obviously your rich text content. So all this should look quite familiar with how you would experience using Tiny MC. So the experience shouldn't be too different. Were the kind of the extra power and capabilities that we've added with our Tiny MCE implementation, Tiptap implementation. I don't want to too many T's. With the Tiptap implementation, is really to do with the data type configuration. So if I flip over to what the data type looks like for Tiptap. So previously for Tiny, you would have like a configuration for the toolbar, which would be a series of checkbox. It should be a checkbox list. But now we've kind of taken that a step further and separated out what the capabilities of the rich text experience should be and how your toolbar is. And also we've introduced one in I think it was 15.4, but for 16, a status bar as well. So I'll talk through these. So I know on the previous unboxing video for version 15, this was outlined of how this works, but I'll just give a quick overview of what the capabilities are anyway. we've added more since version 15 was first released. The capabilities is how you would like the rich text editor to be experienced, really. You can enable what features you want or disable features you don't want. So if you were going to say you didn't want a content author to be able to upload media or to embed images or to have YouTube videos, you can disable these features from the data type, and then the content editor won't be able to use them. So this isn't just for the toolbar, this is for the editor itself. And if you really wanted a cut down version, you can just have what we're calling the rich text essentials. So this is like basic things like bold and italic and headings that we believe most rich text editors would be using. And then we have the toolbar designer. So again, to take a step forward from where we were with our TinyMCE implementation, is that you can create and design your own toolbars. And by this, I mean you can create as many rows as you need, and inside each row you have a group, and then inside each group you have what buttons or actions you would like to have. So yeah, you can add as many of these as you like, and configure it to be more tailored for your content authors on however they would like it. So the way these work is that you can either drag and drop, or if you just click on them, then it will just add to the last group. So you can add as many groups as you like, or reorder them if you kind of feel them not quite right, and configure it however you see fit. So
could you delete everything that we put there out the box and start completely empty, and you just literally put what you want where you want?
So we have configured it so you have to have at least one row in the toolbar, but you can make that empty. But we have made it so you would have at least one action in there. But it could be in future that we could make it that it doesn't have any, but at the moment, this is the way it works. So then the most recent introduction is the status bar, which is the bar at the bottom of the rich text editor. So for TinyMCE, you could only have this by configuring plugins that would enable this status bar at the bottom. And there was plugins for word count and things. So we've feature matched those, so we have those now out the box. So at the moment we only have two extensions for the status bar. So we have word count and also element path. So this is where if you click on the various elements, you would be able to, inside the rich text editor, you'll be able to see what the like a breadcrumb trail of the markup on how that works. But the beautiful thing that I'm quite excited about here is that every single one of these toolbar actions or status bar features are all Umbraco extensions. So each one is you're able to add as many as you like, or if you weren't happy with some of these, you could remove them or replace them with your own version. So it's very, very pluggable and extensible. So I'm quite excited about that. The other features of what you would expect from a rich text editor, what we've had so far. Style sheets wasn't in the initial release, but it's now, since 15.4 and 16, part of the Tiptap one. So you can define your style sheets inside the settings section and reference those to just add additional styles. And blocks and things. So. Yes. So over to the editor. I will save this just to show the element path as well.
Because didn't I tell you to delete all the controls?
You did? Oh no. Okay, I'll remember this. But I've just pressed save. So if I come back to this.
I'm so sorry for messing up your demo.
Look at that. I wanted to. That's fine. Yes, but I wanted to show that wherever it would the element path at the bottom would show what you're currently navigating to. So if you did have bold, then it would show the path for that. So we've added these things in. Word count, if you click on it, it will change between words and characters as well.
And that includes content inside blocks, if you have.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. No, it's not that clever. It could be.
Maybe.
Yes, yes. All the rich text editor knows about the block is that it's referencing a block.
Yeah, fair enough.
So whatever content you have inside there is separate from the markup of the rich text editor. Yes. Okay. So yeah, some of the other things I wanted to show about TipTap in general is that it supports, and I will delete this content, it supports Markdown out of the box. So if you are familiar with Markdown and you know how to create headings and do bold, italic, and other rich text formatting, you can do that directly in here. So if I was to push the hashtag, and this is what you would use for a heading, so hashtag space and then heading. Oh no! Hold on. Why? Oh, I've done it. You know, Lottie, you've made me disable things. You have.
Again,
Yes.
I'm so
Did I
sorry.
take things off? I don't know how that worked.
I never told you to press save.
No, I know. Okay. Well, I've got bold. Hold on. So bold is when you put. So it would work like this. So I think italic should work as well. It does. So those basic formats still work. So you can put Markdown in here. Believe me. Yeah.
That's actually quite nice to see, because it kind of restricts you from doing stuff you haven't allowed the editors to do, doesn't it? So even if they know the Markdown for italic and you don't want them to use it, it shouldn't appear.
Yeah. Well, yes. The problem it's not a problem, but our restriction is that we've enabled certain features.
Okay.
Yeah. But I'm sure the heading should work. In fact, the heading does work. I don't know why it didn't work there. Okay. That's strange. So yes. So I would put heading because that looks strange otherwise. Yes. So if you put 2 hashes and you get heading 2 and heading 3, yeah, like that. It also works for code fences, so you can put some backticks and then you can write some code snippets in here.
Are those
Whichever you
called
want.
code fences?
Yeah. I think we're trying to find a difference between this is a code block, I think they call them, even though you think a block would go along. Yeah, a code snippet. I don't know. Yeah, yes, but yeah, I think GitHub refers to them as, more in Markdown even, it refers to them as fences. So yeah, so you can be able to type your Markdown into here. So that's quite good. I do have another demo, which I'm calling the kitchen sink demo, which is not how I encourage content editors to use the rich text editor, but it just contains all of the different features that we have inside of the rich text editor or TipTap implementation. So everything you would expect: links, bold, italic. But some of the more newer features that we've added is that we've added a style menu. So our style menu out the box is hard coded with a couple of we'd say common features that people will use for most pages. So your different page headings and paragraphs and code blocks. So those are these features, but we've also added some other features that TipTap had that we've now brought over to no TipTap. Did I say TipTap? Tiny had that brought over to TipTap. Oh, I'm going to be penalised for this. So we've got ways you can have a font family drop-down menu. You can have different font sizes as well. So if you did want to go crazy and increase the font size, these are all in terms of what markup this produces. These are inline styles, attributes inside the tags themselves. We've added a capability for anchors. So if you add an anchor, it will ask for anchor ID, and these are for in-page links, and you can move these around. They're all draggable. We have a character map, so I can never remember what the copyright symbol is. So here now we can have a character map, and if I need to know what the copyright symbol is, I can just say insert, and it will insert it there. So so this is similar to another TinyMCE plugin where these are all the characters are categorized into their own sections. We've got some text indent, but also right to left support, and also good Unicode support as well. So for say Hebrew and Arabic, and also different dialects. So that's quite good. There's some extra buttons we have now, or actions for text color. So if you wanted to have a certain color, there's our predefined palette down here as well. Background colors, if you really wanted to, and our table menu as well. So the initial version did come with a table, but now we have enhanced the functionality of the table toolbar. So if you are not within a table, the table toolbar will default to like a designer mode, so you can pick however many rows and columns that you would like, and that will insert a table like this. And then if you select a column, we get a little context menu. Even the rows get context menu, so we can add more rows however you see fit. And then if you say you wanted to create like a table header, then you can go back to the menu. I mean, these could be added to the context menu here. I'm kind of thinking ideas now. But you can toggle the row header here, so then this would become more bold. That sort of thing. And then you can also, there's table properties, and this lets you do some alignment, some background colors. Okay, but center this. Yeah, I don't know how much power people want to give the content authors for tables, but you can. And then we also allow some generic markup as well. So inside Tiny, we've got Tiptap, the source code editor. So this shows you what markup will be rendered out on the front end, and we have, if I can get past all of the table markup, the reams and reams of tables. We have ways that you can have divs and spans, but also be able to have support for classes, for style attributes, and also data attributes as well if you need those. Yeah, and then there's the other features that were there previously: media picker, YouTube embeds, and also blocks as well. So you can insert your own blocks into the RTE, but I'm sure most people are familiar with that. I think what have I missed there?
Apart from the fact it's not 1999 anymore, Leah. We don't build pages that look like that, but yes. I love your kitchen sink demo. I appreciate that when you're working on this is so very valuable. It just obviously makes people feel a bit ill that pages can look like this. But of course, you can switch on or off.
Let's just have the bold. The bold and italic. That will do. You've clearly been working very hard on that, and it's just a shame they both begin with the letter T, and yes, it's confusing, isn't it? Yes. Apologies if I've mixed them up. There is one more feature I want to show though, which is that so in the kitchen sink we had a hard-coded style menu, and many people have been asking how can we make our own style menus.
Yes,
so we do have support and documentation for a style menu. So on the docs, which is already live, you can create your own style menus. And the way you do this, like with all extensions in the new back office, is through a manifest. So there's no extra code needed if you want to create your own style menus. So you would have to register this in your Umbraco package as a plugin in the app plugins folder. But you would create your own manifest, and you would define items, and then each one of these items can be however you want to define the items. And then if it has a cascading menu, you would inside here an item would have further items, and then you can cascade that as however far you like. It's to infinity. But yes, you can customize your own style menus, and you can. The other things you can define is the icon and also what CSS style gets used within the menu item itself. So this is not CSS that gets applied inside the Rich Text Editor. This is just styling for the menu item itself. And then there's a selection of tags that we support, which in the documentation, if I scroll, maybe not too fast, but we give an outline of all the different tags that we support out of the box. But there is possible for you to extend this with your own extensions and Tiptap toolbar items.
Nice, because I think a lot of people did end up customizing the default style list that Tiny had. Is this, when you add the your own extension, does that change all of the style drop downs across all Tiptap data types, or do you sort of opt into that? Does it add a new one to your list?
So So I've added. Here's one I prepared earlier. So I added this one earlier to this Umbraco install. So I have my custom styles, and
nice.
I can drag and drop that on. Okay, so I have my custom styles. I should go in here.
Because I think the way that we could only do it for Tiny, or at least the easy way to customize it for Tiny, meant it was for everything. It wasn't, then you couldn't opt in or out on each data type. It was, you've changed it across the board.
Yes, you can opt in on it, in and out on if you add this, but also if you wanted different style menus, you would have to create them as separate extensions.
Yeah.
So and then you add that to your toolbar. But yeah, so I've copied the example literally from the documentation. So this is what we've added so far. So this will add a heading 2, 3, or 4, and then this would add some class and ID and a class and ID. So if I was to do it on the heading and just say I'll add the class and ID, I don't have the button for view source.
Sorry.
So I can't view source. It's my own fault. But this is a live demo.
Yeah.
Let's try this again. Okay, right. So I'll select this. I'll add my I'm clicking too fast. Add my mixed one. I don't know why that didn't work. Oh, my custom styles. Oh, I think it's because it's a different. Hold on. Let's just. Okay. Okay, so it adds a. I know why it didn't work before, because that was a heading tag, and this is defined to work on spans. So yeah, so this is now added a span tag around my my text with the classes class and ID. So yeah, so you can create your own style menus.
Nice. So we're definitely giving people the ability that they used to have, just in a better way. Everything's being added in as an extension, and we can go and build our own. Dare I ask if the documentation is there to go and build your own Tiptap extension?
It is. There's one I prepared earlier. It's all down on here. So yes, so it's all up on the docs, and yeah, and there's a dedicated page for the style menus as well. So because we knew that was a bit more in depth, an extension of an extension, as you will.
Okay. So before we talk about migrations, is there anything else you want to demo?
No, okay. That's pretty much the new ones, yeah.
So the thing to point out now is previously we didn't touch your data types when you upgraded to 15. Mm-hmm. If you had RTEs, they would be staying with TinyMCE. But now TinyMCE is not in the core CMS, and
that's true.
So we are going to switch to using Tiptap. And what are the considerations for people around that, Lee?
Okay, so the migration from version 15 to 16 is that any TinyMCE data type will be migrated to the Tiptap data type. So this is the one you see here, and we by default we enable all the features, but we try to take the checkbox list of toolbar items, the ones that we know about. So if you have any custom ones, then we'll have to deal with those separately, and we create them just in one row inside one group for the toolbar. So it should migrate. Well, it will migrate straight across over. But if, like I say, if you have custom plugins for TinyMCE, then you would need to convert those over to Tiptap and then re-add them into the toolbar, because there's things that we can't do inside the core because it's a custom extension. So yeah, so on a whole, your toolbar will remain the same, and yeah, all the other settings, if you've got any style sheets, blocks, they will all still be defined on your data type. In terms of content, we haven't migrated any content, because the underlying schema at database level is the same for TinyMCE as it is for Tiptap. So we use a schema just called Rich Text Editor inside the on the server side. So that means that these can be swapped between, and we are not going to influence or manipulate any of the markup. So we're not going to change the content, only the data type settings, and it will work.
If people try this, if they're on a 15 site now, they'd be able to switch their RTE from Tiny to Tiptap. Would that migration of all this configuration as well happen, or is that just something that's happening from 16 onwards?
So in 15, we have a soft migration that if you were in a data type of Tiny MCE and you click change and you picked TipTap, then we would try to manipulate the data into the right format. That's done client side, so there may be little things you need to tweak. But for the upgrade, that's a server side migration. So yeah, it's a bit more thorough.
So we're saying that if you're on 15 now and you're still using Tiny, unless you've done anything custom, you might as well just let 16 do the conversion for you. Or of course you could do it manually in 15 now if you wanted to. And then of course for those people who perhaps have invested a fair amount of time in Tiny MC custom actions, what are their options, Lee?
Okay, so we're all about choice and not trying to influence what you want to do. So if you love Tiny MCE and want to stay with Tiny MCE, you can. So there is a package which has been developed by ProWorks in the US, one of our partners. So we've been working quite closely with them. That once we took the code out of the core, we moved it over to this package. So it will run as you would expect it. If everything's in place. And also the important part with this package is that we have a database migration for version 16. If you install this package before you upgrade to version 16, then this package will disable that migration and all of your Tiny MCE data types will remain, and it will be almost like nothing has changed. So yeah, I mean the only thing's changed is our documentation is different, but it's your experience in the back office remains the same.
Excellent. And then yes, you've added a dependency on this package, but as you say, supported by ProWorks over in the US, which we're delighted that they've taken this on, because then, as you say, Lee, people do have the choice. As long as you follow the steps and install the package before you do the migration, then nothing should change. Thank you, Lee, or Mr. TipTap, as I like to call you.
Just another name. Yeah.
Could I just ask Lee a question? Because I just realised we haven't really discussed why we've made this change, because it's not purely about that we think TipTap is a better editor, but it's not that at all. So maybe Lee, you could just explain that.
Yeah. So it's so for version. So we were using in Umbraco 14. We're using version 6 of Tiny MCE, which has an open source license of MIT, which is a permissive license, which means that you can use it however you like, and if you make any modifications, then it's up to you as the user of that software, however you want to use it. With version 6 for Tiny MCE was coming to its end of life, so we'd have to upgrade to version 7. In version 7, they changed the license from MIT to GPL. Now this, to many people, doesn't really seem like a big deal, but what that does mean for Umbraco is that if we use a GPL licensed software inside Umbraco, and this is I'm not a lawyer, this is the legal side of it, we would create a derivative works, which would mean that because we're using Tiny GPL licensed, Umbraco would need to be GPL licensed also. But it doesn't stop there. Everything that uses Umbraco would then have to be GPL licensed, so it's a big cascading license change. And it's something that we weren't willing to do for Umbraco. It doesn't really fit with our open source ethos. So yeah, the decision was made to look for a replacement.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah. Sorry to put you on the spot for your
No, that's fine.
legal explanations.
Yeah,
but the main point I wanted to say was we felt it necessary to remove Tiny MC for these reasons, and not for any reasons of it not being a capable rich text editor. So
no,
you have the choice, as you say. If you're prepared to understand and take on the licensing implications yourself, or pay for a premium license, then you can carry on using Tiny MC. But we've got a very capable alternative out of the box.
Yes. I still like Tiny MC. It's a great editor. Yeah.
Great, thank you very much, Lee. I think we're going to switch over now to talk about lock and hide properties, also known as property level permissions, and perhaps other phrases that Mads is going to introduce us to. If you could take it away, Mads.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, first a little introduction. Andy mentioned in the beginning that so this is the feature that usually was something that developers were able to do using the content sending notifications. But with 14, we removed this opportunity, so we kind of wanted to come with a replacement. So so this feature comes in two parts. One of them is a client-side API where you can do this through code. But we also wanted to add a UI on top of this. So if you're doing the basic stuff, then you can get very, very far doing or through the UI and through user permissions. So the first part here, I would like to show how this works with the user permissions and how to set them up on user groups. And then afterwards, we can have a look at the client-side API and see if you really want to dive in and do some custom stuff, how you can use that. So let's first see if I got locked out here. I didn't. A little bit a background. I have a very, very simple Umbraco setup here. It consists of two document types. A simple page, and in the first part here, it's the first three properties here that are important. There's a text, there's a drop down, and there's an image. And then I have created a piece of content over here, just called page, where I've entered some text. And then we have two users. We have my user, and we have Bob. And Bob, he's a photographer, and we want to limit a little bit what this user group can do in our UI. So we go into the user groups and we find the photographer user group, and all of the top part here is what you are used to. But in the bottom here, we now have this new opportunity called document property value, and it's named this way in the UI because this permission is tied to document values. So this will only work on documents. At some point in the future, we will probably have it for media and for members as well. But for now, it's for documents. And what you can see underneath, we have two parts. There's a read access and a write access, and they are prefixed with a UI because this permission is not a security permission, it's a UX permission. So this means that you can still access and write to properties through the management API, but we will make properties read only or hide them in the UI for a better UX. So there's a little bit there to be aware of. By default, all existing user groups will be migrated into having access to read and write, so you won't experience any missing properties for your existing users. You will have to go in and add these rules afterward. For our user group, we allow by default access to read and write, and then we have the ability to do granular permissions on a specific document type. And it looks like this when we do that. When you add it, you get presented with the different document types you have available. We will start with the page. You can click that one. And then you have a list of all of the available properties. It's the top ones that are important here. And for our photographers, we want to say that the text, we can do that these won't be writable and won't be readable. This means that they will disappear from the UI because there's no need to show them. And we can do something similar to the next with the drop down. Let's make that one so we cannot write to it. This means that we can still see the value in the UI. We confirm here and we save the user group, and then we log in with Bob. And we have it here. That. And now when we go to the page over here, you can now see that the text property is hidden And the drop-down property, we can only read the value, but we can still use the other properties. So that's for document. You might also have noticed that there were a block inside there. So for the photographer, we can select a block here, and we also have some text available here and an image, but we would like to limit so the photographer can only pick images in a block as well. And it is very, very similar to what happened. We go back to the other user. That. Go into our user group, photographer, same place. And you might already have noticed, we also have all the blocks available. We pick the block, we find the property, we do whatever is needed. And when we go back to Bob, go back to the blocks in here, pick the block, then the text field is gone. Magic. So these permissions work for blocks and for documents. And now into how we can do even more customization with the client side. So if we want to do some custom stuff, all of this user permissions is built on top of a public front-end API. When we build the core, we want to do the exact same as packages. So we build on the same foundation. So all of these permissions are rules added to a guard system, a property guard system. We will have a look in a minute. And you can chip into adding the same rules, remove our rules if you don't like them. So everything is built on top of each other. And there's a small demo here. So this is a custom rule I've added. So when this value is empty, it is not possible to change the date. And if I go in here and select a value in my picker, then I can select a date down here. And let's look at a little bit of code to how to do that.
While you're switching over to the code, I just want to point out that Lee has been smiling all the way through this demo. This is
so happy.
Out of the box functionality that so many people have solved in so many different ways. Back to
conditional properties, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Continue, please.
Yeah, and as Lee mentioned in his demos, everything starts with a manifest if we want to extend the new back office. So in this case, I have added a manifest to extend or to add my own workspace context. This means that, let's go in here, that I am able to run code whenever this right-hand side of the UI is open. That's what we call a workspace. And I've added a little condition for this to say I only want to run my code when I am on a content type with the alias of page. Then I know that my properties will be available. And in my custom code, can I get that to stop hovering? It's a class, and it extends the context space, which makes it a context that will be provided automatically in the UI. There's a little bit of setup in the top. I consume the document workspace context. This is where I know all my properties and values will be available. When I get that, I observe a value for the document property. And every time that changes, I then apply my rule. So what really makes the difference is the code down here. And as mentioned before, we have this new guard system in the UI and or in the client-side code. So, and the first place where we added this is for the properties. So we have a property right guard, and underneath you can see we also have a property view guard. We start with the right guard. Then I first look up the property that I want to hide, or in this case I want to make read only. I find the property because I need the ID of that property type. I then create this rule, and every time that I do not, or every time that I do not have a value, then I set is not permitted. And in the end, I add the rule to my write guard, and this makes it so get the value, check if I have a value, and then write the rule. So that's the basics of it. But as I also mentioned, there's also a view guard. So if I change the code to use the view guard instead, I can use the exact same rule. And if I go back to here, and as you might notice right now, then the property is gone, and I can go in and pick a value here. And then you have the date. So now you have your real conditional properties where you can show and hide other properties based on values. We can take it a little bit further. And if you might have noticed in the code, we can also add this rule for specific variants. So if I add this one, then my rule will only target properties that can vary by the Danish culture. It might not make a lot of sense, but nonetheless, you can do it. So right now, I'm on the English variant, and you can see that I can change the date here. But if I switch over to my Danish variant, then I cannot see the property. And if I choose this one, then I have the rule here. So there's a lot of different ways to set up these rules. And of course, you can have a lot of different context and conditionals before you're setting the rules. So I think it will be very, very flexible to how you can manipulate and customize the UX of this.
Could I just add one point or half ask a question? I see that's asynchronous. So one of the things I'm thinking is that the kind of thing this is replacing is a server-side event, and we've replaced it with a client-side extension. But if you wanted to, from this rule, you could go to the server, I assume, do whatever calculations you need to do in order to decide whether this property should be available or not. So it doesn't have to be just based on information that's already in the back office.
Oh,
is that right?
That's correct. It is async, so you can call whatever you need to before you apply your rule.
Thanks.
Awesome. I think there've been a lot of, as I said earlier, there's been a lot of different solutions to things like this, and I think there's that wonderful discussion on GitHub about the removal of sending notifications and quite the weird and wonderful things that people have done with them. And the great thing is now this is out of the box and done in the right way. So excellent. And it reminds me of when we did the unboxing of version 14, and Jacob was saying this is just the beginning, because this is what the new front end, we don't call it the new front end anymore, do we? But this is now what we're just seeing what we can do with this stuff now, and we know we're telling people what to use, and we will carry on to support it. So thank you very much indeed. So those were our demos for version 16. We've talked about upgrading, but I'm just going to revisit some upgrade considerations. As with all releases now, it should be straightforward, right? However, we're going to talk about 13 to 17 probably in the next unboxing video, but for this one, if you're on 14 or 15 and upgrading to 16 should be straightforward. As we said, there are a few breaking changes. They are documented, and we'll put a link in the show notes for you to read. The tiny to Tiptap is the fundamental one, and there are a few client-side things that perhaps package developers or people who've started doing significant customizations of their back offices might be affected by. Andy, I'm wondering if you'd like to share a bit about what's next in version 17.
Yeah, sure. I think the first thing to say really is it's going to still be an extension of where we are with 16, except this time we recognise that 17 is the next LTS. So if I had to say that the overall message, the overall thing we're aiming at is just really to make sure that 17 is absolutely, in every respect, an upgrade from 13 you want to do. So we've covered all the things around feature parity, all the things that people do with extensions that they can now do in new supported, hopefully better ways. Things like packages, we want to support the community to make sure the packages they want to use are available, this type of thing. So that's the overall thing. We're really focused on just 17 being as absolutely as good as it can be. So, more polish, more fixing issues, more of it focus on performance, this type of thing.
But
that said, we do...
Oh, sorry, I was just going to say that I've seen documentation appearing of helping people who are sort of stuck with macros, which I can only apologise, and how you get them into blocks and things like that. So there's definitely work being done to really help with that migration from 13 to 17. Sorry, I interrupted you, Andy.
Yeah, no, that's okay. That's a very good point. I was just going to say there are other bigger things we are working on though. So the first one I talked about earlier, which is around search. We've already done quite a bit of work on that. You should definitely look out for a package being released some point in the next few months. So you can start having a look at that, seeing how we're doing it. And if you want to try it out with your favourite search engine, you're welcome to do so. Another thing we've started to look at, and this will be something that it's gone back a long way, where we had this message of do not load balance the back office. You can load balance the front end service, that's fine, but the back office you can't. So we've decided to try and crack this nut. And initially it's a case of digging in and seeing, okay, what are the reasons why you can't do this? Because it's been such a long time we've been saying it. When I asked the question initially, I didn't know. A few people had different ideas, and we had to actually spend a bit of time investigating and really figure out what the issues were. So we've got to the stage now where we've identified, I think, 5 or 6 kind of key issues, and we have plans to resolve them. And we are going to be working on those over the next few months in order to try and get to the point where we can say, okay, now you can load balance Umbraco as a whole. And I think that will help a lot of people because, yes, you can load balance the front end. That's probably the most important thing. And there are probably good reasons why you might want to separate the back office and the front end and do them separately. But for a lot of cases, it is a lot easier to be able to take one instance and spread it out across the load balance service, and to be able to do that with the back office as well, I think would be very valuable. So that's a focus. We have another thing we want to look at around dates in Umbraco. So at the moment, we have system dates that are a little bit inconsistent, if I'm honest. So we have some dates where we store kind of local time, and some dates where we store UTC time. And we want to get to a point where that's a bit more consistent, so it makes our job easier, if I'm honest, so we don't have to be constantly thinking, okay, this date is this and we need to do something different in the client to present it correctly. But also, people using the published models, whether it's from the APIs or from the objects you get back from the created date or the update date on content, to make sure they're all consistent. So we're looking at that, what's involved in that, and then also introducing that for your content as well. So you have a date picker that is tied to a time zone, and you can more reliably then present it in the back office for different editors who are in different time zones, making it easier for them to work together. And then lastly, the thing we want to look at is the idea around global elements and global blocks. So we actually had this as an RFC a little while ago. It's never become top priority because there are ways to do the things you need to do. You can do clever things with pickers and blocks to implement global elements as well as local ones. But we do recognise having it native in the CMS is pretty important, and it's something that is missing from Umbraco in an easy way. So introducing that, the ability to kind of create a library of elements, be able to create block lists and block grids with local blocks as you do at the minute, but also be able to reference these global ones and to be able to convert between them, so making a global block a local one, a local one, a global one. So they're the 4 things we're working on. I'm kind of deliberately not promising them for any releases. We have a fixed release schedule, and we also have this real focus on making 17 as good as it can be. But as and when we get time around that, maybe people from different disciplines, we have different more time available for some people than others. We're going to start to try and progress those 4 things.
So I apologise, my slide maybe should have said what might be coming in Umbraco 17.
That's fair.
Thank you, though. This all sounds very exciting. Although I remember in the several times in my life where I've earned money by pointing out that the problem is that they shouldn't have load balanced the back office. So that was an easy consultancy fee, to be honest. But no, there we go. Apart from removing that, it does sound a very good thing. And I like the fact that you were asking around going, but why? Why can't we? Because yes, it's just been a thing that if you've worked in the Umbraco world for long enough, you know,
Yeah, you just know.
You just don't do it. It's also why perhaps I'm quite focused on upgrade steps, because I've been around in Umbraco for so long that upgrades used to be quite version specific and tricky, and used to have to stop at 7.6 and then continue. Life is so much better now. So thank you very much to the CMS team who work very hard to make sure that migrations are as smooth as they can be. So I think what leaves me is to encourage people now, go and have a go, download 16, upgrade your projects. It'll be on NuGet, it'll be on Umbraco Cloud. This is what the page on our will look like. It will look like on the day of release. Umbraco 16 available. And if you want to read more, we've got a very extensive blog post that's coming out talking about the release, and of course, as always, the pull requests that have gone into the release will be available as well. So I think what just leaves me now is to say thank you very much for joining me, you three. I've enjoyed that very much. I'm very excited about being able to now put a sign against a package I wrote quite a long time ago with Lee's help called Admin Only Package that added this functionality to be able to restrict properties to people's user groups. And I can now go and put a nice message saying, deprecated functionality out the box in version 16. So excellent, thank you very much. Thank you very much. See you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.